up in there? This is the principal's office.
Actress Terri Vaughn recently spilled the beans on Steve Harvey in an interview with Comedy Hype, saying that his arrogant demeanor has persisted throughout his career. Vaughn recalled her experience working on The Steve Harvey Show, saying that Steve's unrelenting cockiness would frequently interrupt talks on set. The highs and lows of Steve Harvey's career have included times of great success and prominence. Vaughn pointed out that his most recent projects might not be connecting with audiences the same way they did in the past.
Still that same smart Steve, he's still that, but now you're also seeing another side of him that he never had to show.
In any case, there has long been gossip that talk show presenter Steve has a nasty streak. A fascinating story regarding Kenan Thompson's dealings with Steve Harvey was featured in a 2022 episode of the Smart List podcast, hinting at yet another situation in which Steve may not have been the friendliest person. Kenan's Steve impersonation on the comic scene came up in the podcast discussion with hosts Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett. Kenan's portrayal of Steve was one of Will Arnett's favorite characters, and the judged Steve Harvey actor didn't hold back when asked about it by the Nickelodeon alum. Steve Harvey initially didn't like it, according to Kenan. "I am familiar with him, so he would undoubtedly send signals to the press or to friends of ours saying things like, 'Tell the little fat boy to knock it off.'" Kenan didn't back down despite Steve's less than favorable reaction to the mimicry. In reality, he made the decision to build on it and modify it to fit Steve Harvey's next ventures, such as Little Big Shots. "I never stopped," he said. "I'm on it too as soon as he does something, as soon as he moves on from Family Feud and does something else. You are on the radar if it detects you." It's interesting to note that in a recent interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Kenan spoke about Steve's response to his mimicry. Although Steve wasn't initially very enthusiastic about it, he eventually fell in love with it. He told the outlet in July 2020, "I don't do it out of any malice." He explained it to me in a variety of ways or on his radio program. "When Steve Harvey mentioned me on the radio this morning, people would contact me and say, 'Hey, I heard Steve Harvey talking about you.' When he realized that I wasn't attacking him, I would say, 'All right, well, I'm sure he'll settle down.'" Fans may recall that from 1996 to 1998, Kenan played the role of Junior on Steve's sitcom, The Steve Harvey Show, where he first met Steve. When Kenan appeared as a guest on Steve's talk program of the same name in 2017, they discussed it amicably. "You don't know the phone calls you put in my life," Steve said to Kenan. "Did you watch Kenan last night, Steve?" "Last night, I didn't see Kenan. He performed your last night, boy." The pair has revealed additional details regarding their meetings throughout the years. "I just saw Steve when we were shooting Bring the Funny, and he was on the next stage doing Family Feud," Kenan remarked. "When we sat down, he said, 'You best watch yourself.' I cherish Steve. He and I go back a very, very long time." It appears that both parties share this sentiment. Steve remarked on Extra, "We all know Kenan's career is alive and flourishing thanks of me. It's funny, but I want to kick his ass. Hey man, send me half your check since I'm half the reason you're here. I always tell Kenan when I call him." You are in for a harsh awakening, though, if you believe that Steve's unsettling behavior ends there. This element of his personality seems to have finally come to light because of a recent memo he addressed to his staff. And trust us when we tell that happiness could have been ignorance. In his memo, Steve abandoned any pretense of friendliness and erected a distinct boundary between himself and his coworkers, as if he thought they were beneath him. The memo stated, "My security team will prevent anyone from approaching my door with the intention of speaking to or seeing me. I want the ambushing to end right away. That includes the TV crew. You need to make a reservation. Do not try to stroll with me. I swear I won't entertain you in the corridor." In reaction to the criticism regarding the memo, Steve has decided to stand his ground rather than extend an apology. He seems to think that everybody who wants to talk to him is taking advantage of his status. Talk about haughtiness. "I couldn't find a way to sit in my makeup chair, go from the stage to my dressing room, go from my dressing room to the lunch table, or just sit and have lunch without someone just wandering in. Many people around here are wonderful, so I've always had a policy where you may come and talk to me, but some of them have recently started abusing it." Steve was inspired to compose the letter because he felt imprisoned by the presence of admirers and individuals who were waiting for him. In the end, he steadfastly refused to admit his error or offer an apology. Steve appears to assume that he can say or do anything without repercussions after years of appearing to be untouchable. Steve has now made it impossible for anyone to approach him at work, which shows that he doesn't hold many people in high regard. He is obviously still unaware of his annoying and haughty behavior and has no intention of changing it. While some may contend that his desire to avoid conversations at work is understandable, it is important to remember his long history of impolite behavior. He had acted inappropriately before and anticipated people to put up with it, as evidenced by the most recent instance. Unfortunately, it appears that Steve Harvey has a history of displaying racist and hateful inclinations. He has no problem speaking out in public with racist and homophobic slurs. According to reports, Steve Harvey has shown disrespect for gay men, implying that they are not true men in his opinion. Despite being a person of color himself, his prejudice also extends to Asians. He even made a racially offensive remark on the book, How to Date a White Woman, a Practical Guide for Asian Men. His embarrassing comment was met with a backlash from Asian guys who exposed his hypocrisy. Steve's determination to continue emasculating Asian men for personal benefit was highlighted by Eddie Huang in his character study of him, despite his platform to address problems in the Black community and his religious ties. Steve Harvey has a number of unfavorable traits, one of which is his frank declaration that all men want only one thing from women. He also acknowledged that he didn't have any female friends, saying that guys who make friends with women are only waiting for a chance to get intimate. Additionally, he has a history of demeaning and making fun of his visitors. For instance, Ernie Hudson had a bad experience with Steve because Steve made fun of Ernie's son for having a faint voice. "We had a terrific night," Ernie reflected, even though Steve Harvey was bothersome. "Because of how softly he speaks, my youngest son, Steve was sort of poking fun of his voice. Don't show signs of annoyance while I'm sitting there. I'll ring." It is now very evident that Steve Harvey will not accept responsibility or criticism. He doesn't appear to grasp the idea of consent very well. Steve answered dismissively when asked for guidance on how to turn down advances, saying that once a man shows interest, there is no turning him away. Steve poses himself as a relationship guru, giving others advice despite his contentious beliefs and reliance on gender stereotypes for his comedy. It's important to note, though, that his own romantic history is far from ideal, characterized by adultery and a lack of evident regret. In fact, a few weeks ago, reports on Twitter surfaced that Marjorie had been having an affair with Steve's security. Unfounded rumors about Marjorie's intentions to divorce Steve, her husband of 16 years, spread on social media after she was exposed as having an affair with the Family Feud host. The allegations say that Marjorie cheated on Steve with the couple's bodyguard and chef and was now seeking a $200 million divorce settlement. In any event, Steve has already been accused of cheating. For perspective, Steve Harvey wed Marcia Harvey as his first wife in 1980. The Family Feud host comedy profession was reportedly causing problems in the couple's marriage when they were getting married. In 1994, after 14 years and 3 kids, the couple was divorced. However, the couple already had a breakup before their third kid was even born, in 1990. Along with unpaid child support for Marcia and their kids, it was also claimed that Harvey moved in with Mary Shackelford, his future wife, before the divorce was finalized. He married Mary in 1996, and they had a son before divorcing in 2005. Steve also has strong ideas about atheists and their beliefs, frequently presenting himself as the expert in the field. He has called atheists foolish and questioned their moral principles when speaking about them. You know, an atheist is somebody who doesn't really think there's a God. Steve has engaged in legal disputes with business owners as well. For instance, it was revealed in 2015 that an aircraft business had sued Steve Harvey for $205,040 in unpaid changes. Business Aircraft Leasing Incorporated claimed Harvey wanted to rent a Gulfstream plane at first, but he first asked for upgrades costing $400,000, which prevented him from doing so. 2 seats were removed, and the inside of the aircraft was redecorated as part of these alterations. When it came time to pay, Harvey failed by just making half the required installments before refusing to fully pay off the airplane. The business claims Harvey first orally agreed to lease out the jet for $97,000 a month following the modifications. Harvey and One World Aviation, one of the numerous companies he controls, were the targets of the lawsuit. A year later, the jet company decided to drop its lawsuit against Harvey in favor of working with One World Aviation. Whatever the case, Steve's harsh streak has drawn criticism from fans, some of whom have even expressed disappointment. One fan said, "I don't hate Steve, I'm just disappointed in what he became." Another supporter chimed in, "He was always a villain. Until he unveiled himself, none of you noticed." Additionally, a third admirer commented, "Steve Harvey didn't become anything. He is exactly who he has always been. He just doesn't care that you know it now that he is wealthy." A fourth supporter added, "I used to be a fan of Steve Harvey. I didn't even change my mind because of his nasty behavior. It is an attempt to cover up inappropriate behavior and a refusal to look honestly in the mirror." Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to like and comments. Also subscribe our channel for more videos.